you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K,
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Raw Knuckles. Hosted by Chris Nilan.
Nilan going ballistic. I love it. He's going to hit his own player. Rogers. He's a madman. He's a freaking madman. Look at him going to town. That'll be a suspension. That'll be a fine. Bring them all out, Nilan, you freak.
It's gonna be sick.
Yeah, Nilan, you freak. I go back to that night in Toledo, coaching in the East Coast Hockey League. And I got to tell you, I did lose it. And the first time I heard that, I wish I could have met the guy who said that, the play-by-play guy in Toledo at the time. I never got a chance to meet him. I always wanted to thank him for helping me out with my intro. Anyway, welcome into Real Talk with Knuckles, where I'm going to give you my raw, unfiltered take on what's going on with the Canadiens and around the National Hockey League, whatever happens around the NHL. Last night, Montreal Canadiens, I got to tell you, yesterday afternoon, the Habs started off unbelievable. I loved the way the game started. I hated the way the game ended. Listen, Josh Anderson, a player who certainly has the size, the speed, the ability to be an effective player, really showed last night at the beginning of that game what it means to be a team player. We go back to the Justin Barron hit by Jacob Trouba last time they were in town. Josh Anderson stepped up to the plate at the beginning of that game last night and basically told everybody, let's go. We better be ready to play this New York Ranger team, a team who's struggled of late, and the Habs certainly, again, started that game off on the right foot. To join me today in this discussion about the Montreal Canadiens is from the Montreal Gazette, Stu Cowan. Stu, what's up, my man?
Hey, Knuckles, how are you?
Good. Listen, thanks for joining me today. And listen, last night Habs started off great. I love what Josh Anderson did. They played a pretty solid game, but end up losing, and it was difficult. They bounced back. Great third period, and then the penalty at the end, and they got to play the last 2 minutes and 35 seconds shorthanded.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Anderson, it was nice to see somebody step up besides Arber Xhekaj also to handle that, right? And yeah. Josh Anderson put a pretty good beating on Jacob Trouba. Two good guys. That's as good a hockey player as we've seen in a long time. It was like 2 rounds, right?
Yeah.
And then they went at it again. The Canadiens, it was a great effort. It really was, especially on in Madison Square Garden, an afternoon game, which is different for them. But I'm not one to blame referees or whatnot, but they had to beat the referees yesterday also. I mean, that was one of the worst officiated games I've ever seen. And you're talking about Josh Anderson in the first period. Chris Kreider flattens him when he doesn't even have the puck. Anderson gets up and starts complaining to the ref, rightfully so. Like, what are you looking at? How did you miss that? And then in the second period, he throws like a routine check and gets called for a roughing penalty by Kelly Sutherland, who's a referee with 24 years experience. He's been in 10 Stanley Cup finals. And to me, it looked like it was payback. Oh, yeah, you're going to mouth off at me? I'm going to teach you. And it had affected the outcome of the game, right?
There's no question.
After that, and deflated the Canadiens. And, there's the other time when that scrum in front of the net, when Slafkovsky somehow ends up with a double minor and the Rangers end up on the power play. The winning goal, Yoel Armia gets tripped. There's no call on it. And it's just, watching that game, it was, and for a veteran referee like Kelly Sutherland, and it looked like it was a personal thing. I mean, that was rough.
It did.
I mean, you could even say Josh didn't even really finish his check totally. He sort of
he just kind of rubbed them out a little, pushed them, and got away from them.
If that's a roughing penalty, you're going to have 50 roughing penalties every game, as Mike Johnson said on the telecast yesterday. I mean, that was a joke, and it was really, an embarrassment, I think, to NHL officials. And kudos to Marty St. Louis after the game. He obviously didn't want to get fined, but he just kept saying every question he was asked, he answered the same thing. I loved everything about our game, and I'm not going to talk about the referees.
Yeah, well, listen, I get that, so I can talk about the referees.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen so many donkey shows, the NHL over the years. Some of their biggest moments, right, in the playoffs, Stanley Cup Finals. Remember in San Jose that year, the Joe Pavelski and what happened there? I mean, that's a whole series turned on its head by the inept abilities of some of the referees or some of these personal things. Like, I really thought, like you said, that was personal yesterday. Josh Anderson, pissed off, and I get it. Listen,
he had a right to be. You didn't have the puck, and he got flattened. Like, what?
I've taken plenty of bad penalties. I know it, and I deserved a lot of it. But there were times I got screwed because of who I was, and I get it. But when you talk about an official being above that fray and say, listen, I'm going to officiate things, it's like they look for it instead of letting the game play out. And if they see something, okay, you got to call it, or you use your better judgment. And when you inject yourself into a 2-1 hockey game like he did, man, it just pisses so many people off, and they don't care because they don't have, like, coaches, players have no recourse. They sit there and stew. They get pissed off. And I get it. I hear people, I heard Mike Johnson saying, you just got to suck it up and move on. But, boy, it's one after another.
Yeah.
It affects you. And I think Marty held himself together well on the bench, because a lot of times if a coach loses his shit on the bench, then the team, it gives them the right to do it. So, yeah, that was difficult to watch yesterday. And listen, here's a team who is 7th on the PK right now in the league. And yesterday, 3 power play goals. Not good,
No.
And that's the difference in the game right there.
One of the concerns I've had with the Canadiens this season is their compete level hasn't been as consistent as it had been since Marty took over. It was there yesterday. And the fact they didn't let the penalty to Anderson get them down. They didn't let the double minor to Slafkosvky get them down. They fought back, and then to lose again the way they lost. But it's, again, I mean, referees, they have to have thicker skin. People, it's like some of them think that people are paying tickets to go watch them referee the game.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody cares about them. Like, they got to – I remember years ago, going back, Knuckles, I remember I was at a game at the Forum, and I was sitting about 10 rows behind the Habs bench, and you were playing, and you were on the bench.
I got screwed? You were giving
it to the ref pretty good, and then you jumped on the ice, and you threw a perfectly clean body check in the corner. I remember this. Arm goes up.
Yeah.
2-minute penalty. You're going ballistic. I was sort of chuckling, sitting there going, I know what that was for. The guy didn't like what Knuckles was saying. The ref didn't like what Knuckles was saying to him from the bench. So it's got a long history, but the NHL officiating, it just seems to keep getting worse. Whether it's video replay, whether it's what we saw yesterday. And as long as Gary Bettman and the NHL keep saying we have the best officials in the world, it's never going to get better. If you don't admit you have a problem with it, it's never going to get fixed. Like that, there should have been a statement from the NHL yesterday or somebody like that was an embarrassment.
Yeah, it was.
What the referees did yesterday. And the Canadiens got screwed. They really did. And again, I'm not one to blame refs. I mean, refs are bad usually for both teams in the NHL.
Yeah.
But yesterday, they were
No,
bad.
It's not one way. It's not.
I mean, fans were going, when Trouba hit Justin Barron, fans were going, that was a clean hit by the rule. Yeah. I said it right from the first hit. That was a clean hit. Barron got caught with his head down, looking at the puck, and Trouba finished his check, and it was a clean hit. Yeah. So it's not like I'm waving my Canadiens flag here and cheer, but from the league standpoint, if I'm Gary Bettman or I'm one of the head of the official, I'm watching that game yesterday, I'm having a long meeting with those two referees to find out what the hell was going on. And you know, with so much sports now, gambling is such a big part of sports now, and the NHL wants that gambling money. All the leagues do. And when you see stuff like that deciding games, people are going to be going, am I going to bet on this sport? Is this fixed? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, they certainly do. I mean, every time you turn around, you see something about gambling on there. You won't see it here, by the way, because it's something I could never get behind. There's no question about it. Living the type of life I live today. But
it's a part of sports, and like people who
it's huge.
Wager, when you see stuff like that, you know, if you bet on the Habs yesterday and you see what happened to power play goals, and you see the winning goal with Armia getting tripped, like what are the refs looking at?
A couple things, Stu, I want to talk about, and I look at And I watched Slafkovsky last year and how he was doing, and certainly Kirby Dach. These two guys I want to talk about. We'll start with Slav. And watch him last year when he's having success. He was moving his feet. He was involved. He was playing that heavy game at the end there. And everything was clicking. This year, I'm looking at him, and he's not close to the skater he was last year at the end of the season. I don't know what it is. If that guy does not move his feet, he is so ineffective. He's like, honestly, he's like an orange cone, and he might as well be. That guy has to move his feet, and he's struggled. And I think the quicker he gets back to that, the better off he's going to be. I'm sure it's been addressed by Marty to this kid, but it seems like some games it looked like he's going to turn a corner, and then boom. What do you think when you look at that player compared to last year?
I think he's frustrated, Knuckles. My Stu Slapshot notebook that I write every weekend on the Gazette website, I let off this week with, it's time to put him back on the number one line with Suzuki and Caulfield. I think he's wondering why he's not there. First 6 games of the season, he was with them. He was averaging a point a game. He had a goal and 5 assists. He got hurt. He came back, and he had lost his spot now to Kirby Dach, because Marty's saying, well, we wanted to get Kirby Dach going, obviously, and he figured that was the best way. But he hasn't got back with those two guys since.
Yeah.
And I think he's frustrated. I mean, you got to remember, he's 20 years old still, right? And he probably wondered to himself, why aren't I playing with these guys? And he's had a revolving cast of line mates, and he just hasn't looked comfortable, and he hasn't looked as engaged. And I asked Marty after practice last Monday, is now maybe the time to put him, he had that -4 game the game before, no shots on goal. Is it maybe now time to put him back with those guys to try and jumpstart him the way he tried to jumpstart Dach by putting him on that line? And he said, not yet. And then he went into how he has to be more engaged. And that's all true. I mean, Marty doesn't want to hand him that spot back on the number one line.
Earn it.
But he didn't lose it by not playing well. He lost it by being injured, right? And then when he came back, he's played with everybody else. So it's easy to forget this kid. He's 20 years old. Not only the pressure he has on him in Montreal, he has 100 times more pressure in his home country. He spoke with us about that during training camp. Like, every move he makes and everything he says back home is like blown up to tabloid. Yeah. He was telling me during training camp that he had moved into a new. Actually, sorry, it was Massar was telling me. His buddy Philip Massar was telling me that he had visited Slafkovsky's new apartment or condo. I said, "Oh, it's a really nice place. It's 4 bedrooms and all that." I said, "Are you going to live with him?" He says, "No, I've got my girlfriend here. I'm probably not." But that got blown up to a big story back home for Slafkovsky, that he's gotten this big head and he had this big mansion now. And,
oh, God.
And everything else. And then Slafkovsky told me, I says, it's not 4 bedrooms, it's 3 bedrooms. And it's not that big of a place. But it's just like, there's so much pressure on this kid. And he is only 20 years old. And if you wanted to jumpstart Kirby Dach by putting him with those two guys, why not try and jumpstart Slafkovsky by putting him back with those two guys? I mean, that line was so effective last year. They have chemistry on the ice. They have chemistry off the ice. They like each other. And it's important to get him back on track, right? This is a key guy. Next season, the contract kicks in, right? His $60 million contract.
Yep.
And he's a young kid. And I like Juraj Slafkosvky a lot as a kid.
Yeah.
I've criticized him on Twitter at times, so it's part of my job. People say, "Oh, you hate." He's a great kid. It's hard not to like him. He's got a really good personality.
Yeah, you got to do your job. He's a great kid. What, you can't talk about him. And that's the thing, right, Stu? Like, guys, you know that. You talk bad about a guy, he's going to be, "Oh, I hate that guy," right?
The thing with him, though, he never hides from the media. Like, good game, bad game, he's always there. He accepts when he plays. He's a good critic of his own game. Like, he'll tell you what he's doing wrong and what he's not doing right. So you want to see him do well, but he's looking now like he did early last season. Yeah. I wrote a column that he should probably go back to the AHL. He looks lost in the NHL. He doesn't look as lost now, but he looks like he's frustrated maybe. And maybe
it could be in his head. Like,
he's not shooting a puck. He's got 24 shots on goal all season. The goal he scored the other night when he had the 2-on-1 with Suzuki and he decided to shoot. That was a good sign. Like, shoot the puck. He's got a great shot. Yeah. But I think now would be to me, if I'm already saying, well, I'm putting him back with Suzuki and Caulfield, I'm saying, show me that you deserve to be back on that line.
Well, we'll see what happens here today in Boston. It's going to be interesting, that game, no question. Now, Kirby Dach, listen, I get it. The injury, you're out the whole year. That's a huge surgery. It used to be possibly a career-ending injury. He comes back, And, okay, he gets a pass first 10 games. Things. Now, I know the people with all these new stats, plus minus is not the only thing, but he's minus 18. That tells me something. He is that's the worst plus minus on the team. And
it's one of the worst in the league, too.
Yeah. I read a quote from him saying, he thinks he's playing too cautiously. I don't know. Like you got to get involved. Is he trying to protect his knee? He could be, not as reckless, playing as reckless. And maybe he needs to get that back in his game, and whatever happens, happens. But, he's thinking, okay, my contract situation, what's going on here? But if you don't have any numbers, you're not going to get a good contract. So you got to go out there and you got to apply yourself. And it's some night. I'm not saying the kid isn't trying, but I just think he is. If he's in his head that way, like I'm trying to protect my knee, I'm going to be cautious. And he's going to play that way, man, he is going nowhere, and he is helping no one. No. Especially not helping the team. He certainly isn't helping himself.
No, and that is a major injury he's coming back from, and I think it's just human instinct in the back of his mind. He's probably still worried about it a bit. I felt horrible for him, that penalty he took at the end of the game, and you see him sitting in the penalty box after the game. It's like his world is caving in. I saw this morning on social media, apparently he shut off his mentions on Instagram.
Yeah, the poor bastard.
You guys back in the day, Knuckles, you guys are lucky they didn't have social media back then, or cell phones or all that stuff going on.
But there'd be a lot of cell phones clicking off in Wanda's, and Chez Paris, at Thursdays, at Derek's, at everywhere.
Oh, yeah. Well, it shows how times have changed, because I remember back in my younger days, down on Bishop and Crescent, and it was rare you ever went out and you didn't see a Hab somewhere. Whether it was a Brewers or Winston, and it wasn't a big deal. There's Knuckles, or Fritz Chelios, or it wasn't a big deal. Whereas now you never see these guys, right? They're afraid, right? Because a cell phone picture will end up on the front page of the paper, whatever these guys were out. I've never understood that. People go out after work or whatever, whether you're a hockey player, they're the same thing, right? I remember when I was working the sports desk late at night and watching a Habs game in Hartford, and finished my shift and finished work. I went down to Deja Vu on Bishop Street, which is one of my regular hangouts. And about 1 o'clock in the morning, in the door comes Carbo and Muller and a couple other guys. I was like, I was watching you guys on TV. Hartford. That's the way it was. But now you add all that added pressure with Dach, and you see him sitting in the penalty box, and then today shutting off his mentions on Instagram. These guys are human too, right? And it's got to be eating up at him right now. And he's probably harder on himself right now than anybody else. I know last season I'd walk into the press box every game. You come into the press box, right to the left is where all the players sit, and Kirby Dach had his season ticket right there, right? He was there every single game with a revolving cast of teammates as they got hurt. And I felt bad for him then, and I feel bad for him now, but he's got to take it upon himself. He's got to get that out of his head, right? If he's worrying about his knee. And you wonder about that now with Patrick Laine. When he comes back, is he going to have that in the back of his head also? Because don't forget, he had more than one doctor's opinion, and some doctors said you need surgery, and then another doctor said, no, you're okay. So he's probably still wondering in the back of his mind, did I do the right thing not having surgery? Is the knee 100%? Yeah. Watching him at practices, he still looked tentative, moving around. I don't know. Marty said he wasn't going to play this week. I don't think he's going to play today in Boston. But that's another thing. Like, people got to realize when he comes back, it's going to take him a while to come back also. Hopefully not as long as it's taken Kirby Dach right now. But for Dach, and this is a guy who also had the broken wrist, right? When he was in Chicago, he broke his wrist at the World Junior.
He's had World Junior. Didn't he miss World Juniors?
He did. He was named captain of the Team Canada, and then he got his wrist busted in a pre-tournament game against Russia. And ever since then, he's had injury problems. 2 seasons ago, we saw him healthy and what he could do, right? He could be dominating. He could carry the puck in the neutral zone. He could set guys up. And he needs to get back to that. And, there's still the thing, is he going to be a center? Is he going to be a winger? But I feel for Kirby Dach. Like, I'm sure he didn't sleep well last night if he slept at all. And, the guy, for his teammates, like to let your team down like that, to take that penalty, and then watch the guys score in overtime. It's tough.
He's going to have to.
The comments he was getting today, if he had to shut off his comments.
Yeah, that sucks. And it's like back in the day, guys said, we don't read the paper.
Yeah.
Don't tell me you don't read the comments. And guys do. I guess after
they do. They say when
when it's so negative,
Yeah.
And things aren't going well, it hurts. It hurts. They don't want to admit it, but it hurts.
There's two guys that are covered with the Canadiens who I believe don't read anything on social media. Shea Weber is one. Yeah. I believe he didn't care. Yeah. Shea's his own man. He doesn't care what anybody thinks. And the other one is Mike Matheson now. As I've spoken with Mike, and he's realized, he said, he said, I don't know why anybody would go on Twitter or X. It's such a, so much crap going on in there. He says, I tell the young guys, just avoid it, stay off it. But it's easier for an older guy like Matheson or Weber compared to these young kids who have grown up with a cell phone in their hand. They don't know what it's to spend half their life on social media, right? So it's harder for them to turn it off than it is for an older guy. Yeah,
there's no question. And Kirby Dach, again, I hope he gets out of it, because that sucks mentally on a kid and emotionally. It's not it's difficult. And I know the fan base, they're getting restless in this town. And we saw it against the Kraken, right? Kraken come out, they score 25 seconds into the game, and then the Habs are losing 4-0 after 10 minutes of the first period. I remember seeing that game. I'm going, are you kidding me? You can't be ready to play this is the Kraken. It's not the Red Army. It's the Kraken. And listen, no offense to the team, but for that team to come out and score 4 goals in 10 minutes, you are not ready to play. And we heard the boo birds, and this year it just seems, the first couple of years, okay, everybody has given this management team, this coach, these players a pass, okay? We're rebuilding, we're putting this thing together. The first 2 years, okay, fine. And I remember last year, I was talking to Serge Savard, and he said, hey, big boy, he said, I went to the game the other night. He said, I come out of the Bell Center, I'm walking, and everybody is happy. They lost the game 5-1, but everybody is happy. He said, years ago, you would never see that. A 5-1 game, it would be like, are you kidding me? But he couldn't believe it. He said, it's like people are conditioned now to just accept what's going on. I don't know. And I get it, giving them a pass. But now you're in year 3, okay? And we see that slide backwards. We thought they were going to take a step. Now they're still down the – come on. They're down the bottom. What are they? 31st in the league.
Chicago's the only team they're at.
Chicago. Fine. And can you look for the positives? Okay, the PK, 7th in the league. That's a positive to hang on to. Power play, 14th in the league. Positive. I mean, okay, you're not going to be up number 1 for a young group. But, boy, the goals against. And the identity, I still – if just say, Stu, some guy comes in town from wherever, some other part of the world where there's hockey, and he says, Stu, you follow the team all the time. What's the identity of this team? What would you say to him?
Well, last season I would have said the work ethic, right? Because they were working hard. They were fun, and that's slipped a bit. But again, we saw that yesterday against the Rangers. But I think they're still trying to get that identity. I mean, they want to be a offensive sort of puck-moving team, but they've taken a step back in that this year because they were giving up like 35 shots a game, right? It's been a while now. They've cut down on the shots against, but at the expense of offense, right? They've obviously shut down and focused more on defense than offense, and Marty's not giving them the same leash offensively as he was in the past. But the fact it's a step back isn't that surprising. Would this be a better team with Sean Monahan, Jake Allen, and even Jonathan Kovacevic? Yes, right?
Yeah.
But
for sure.
Do you understand why they traded those guys? Yes, because they're older guys and they're moving ahead. So like Sean Monahan, they really miss Sean Monahan. But are you going to give Sean Monahan a 5-year contract like Columbus did in a rebuild? Probably not. Monahan looks great right now. Let's see 3 years from now. I hope he still looks great. Sean Monahan's a great guy.
Oh, I get you.
I hope he plays great right to the end of his contract. But that like 32, 33 is the age where you see guys sort of starting to tail off, right? I think.
I know that.
But I think the mistake the Canadiens made was at the golf tournament when Molson and Hughes and Gordon all came out and they all had the same mantra. In the mix, right? In the mix. And that wasn't by accident. The Canes don't do anything by accident.
Of course.
That was all prepared before, and what are we going to say to the media, and how are we going to approach this? And I understand why they said it, because there's season ticket holders, and I have a buddy of mine who's a season ticket holder, and he texted me. I texted him the other night. I said, "Are you at the game?" He says, "Nah." He says, "I can't be bothered with the traffic. Give my tickets away." He says, "I'm wondering if I'm going to keep my tickets next year. It's so expensive, and the team's no good, and they're already out of it already." And there's probably other season ticket holders feeling that way. So I think they wanted to give fans a little bit of hope, and they also thought they were going to have Patrick Laine right from day one. I didn't think they were good enough to make the playoffs even with Patrick Laine in the lineup. But in hindsight, I think they probably regret that. They should have said, "We hope to take a step forward this year. We've lost some key veteran players. It's going to give younger guys a chance to play. We hope to maybe be battling for a playoff spot, but we're still focusing on the future and development. And this is only year 3 of a rebuild, and rebuilds can take time." And that's true. I mean, you're not going to turn around a team in 3 years. It took a long time for the Canadiens to get as bad as they were, and so it'd take a while for them to turn around. I think they're at least 2 seasons away from being a legit playoff contender, at least 2. Jacob Bauer, the goalie, if he comes through in a couple of years and he's plays the way
the real deal.
Michael Hage coming up. You got Devin coming up. They had a lot of young, good talent. That doesn't guarantee anything. I mean, Buffalo's missed the playoffs 13 years in a row. Ottawa looks like they're going to miss the playoffs again this year. But this year, I didn't see them being in the mix for the playoffs, even with a healthy Patrick Laine from the beginning. And I think Canadiens management made a mistake when they said that at the tournament. I think it raised expectations beyond what they should have been for this year. And losing those guys, I mean, Jake Allen, not only what he did as a goalie, but also in the locker room. And Sean Monahan in the locker room. This is a young team. And they lost 2 of their key leaders. And Kovacevic, not the greatest defenseman in the world, but a solid number 5-6, right? Look at what he's doing in New Jersey. Plays a solid game, knows his limitations, gets the puck out. And to think you're going to be a playoff team when you have 5 defensemen age 23 and under, and a 20-year-old defenseman playing 25 minutes a game, that's not a recipe to make the playoffs, right? And I think the expectations were too high. And as far as a rebuild, if the Canadiens are in the draft lottery again this season, at this point, it's probably the best thing for them moving forward.
Yeah. Getting that
thing as that is for Habs fans.
But again, we'll see what happens here down the stretch. And the Boo Birds come out. There's people getting antsy. They wanna see this team start being more consistent, which I get.
And it's understandable. My buddy Pat McTurner's been a season ticket holder. It's a lot of money. I mean, he has a company. You can write some of it off through his company, but it's still a lot of money. And you go there, and you at least want to be entertained, right? And the last couple of seasons, the Habs, even when they were losing, they were entertaining. Yesterday, they were entertaining the way they fought back. They
for sure. They played a great game.
Playing like that. Like, that was an entertaining game, even though they lost. So I think fans who are paying all that money, as you said, Sarah's talking about, leaving the arena and everybody's happy. It's a different generation. It's a different thing now. But I think people are generally happy if they see a rebuilding team competing and battling, and even if they lose. But there's been a lot of games this year where they haven't really done that. And I think that's why fans are starting to get frustrated.
Yeah, well, we'll see how this goes the rest of the way. It could be painful. I hope not. But, we're a quarter of the way through the season, and just, the goaltending. And again, I don't want to put it all on the goalies.
Yeah. Because
a team who doesn't play well defensively in front gives up a lot of opportunities. And they've had a lot of games where they've given up 35, 40 shots, playing so loose defensively, or not even loose, just it looks like lost. Not loose. It looks lost. Yeah. Guys look lost in the defensive zone at times. So, and has that gotten better? Yes, it has. Yes. So as much as I can see it, how bad it is, I can see it's gotten better. Now they have to be consistent with that play. And again, is that a mistake by St. Louis, trying to get this team to play so much offense? Because he was an offensive player. Hello. I mean, I coached in the East Coast Hockey League. I got my team to play defense first.
Yeah.
And we're a pretty good hockey team. But trying to get them to play that offense or find that blend between, it's not as easy as, okay, and sometimes you really think of it this way. When you have the puck, you're on offense. When you don't, you're on defense. Yep. True, but there's certain things you can do to instill that defensive mindset of the group to get them playing as a group. That's, to me, for a coach, more than half the battle is getting a group of guys to play as a team. So you getting them to play offense or try to play that offensive game or a hybrid system, whatever it is, it certainly wasn't working.
Yeah.
It certainly wasn't working, and they didn't have the team for that. I mean, you look, and I can just equate it to back in the day, the Oilers of the day. They had that fast running gun team, and they could outscore anybody. They had that, but that isn't the way today in this NHL. You know,
that's not how you win. That's not how you win, especially in the playoffs.
Well, look at who won last year. How'd they win? They didn't win run and gun. They won ugly. And that's what usually happens. The winner at the end is a big, strong, tough team who can play. They got talent. They got guys who can score, but they have size and they play the consummate team game. They all play for one another. And the good sign for me yesterday was what Josh Anderson did at the beginning of the game. That has to be done consistently. Arber Xhekaj. Here's a guy who I love the kid, but I look at him yesterday. Sam Carrick grabs him, wants to fight him.
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, you wonder, maybe the coaches are telling him not to. I mean,
right?
Arber's walking that fine line.
Like that is the worst fucking thing to do to a player like that. And like that guy grabbed him, started it. Okay, even if he fights him there, does the other guy get the 2 for the instigator, or they just give him both 5? There's no way he's getting the extra 2 there. At least you would think. You would think he would. But that really, to me, hurts a player like that. What went on there?
I think they've taken away some of Arber's mojo, right?
Yeah.
He's a cocky, confident. Like, I love Arber Xhekaj.
Yeah.
He's rough around the edge. He reminds me of you, Arber, because he's wild. He's
Hello.
wild. He is who he is. He's fun to talk to. He's got
fucking balls.
He's got the switch that'll, you don't know when it's going to go off like you did, right? And I think they've taken that away from him. I think he's playing afraid he's going to lose his spot and end up in the press box or back in Laval. Or, I mean, he's a raw talent, right? He makes mistakes. But the effort level is always there. And he's playing, it's like he's playing scared now. And the Canadiens,
I think he's played better, though. Honestly, I've been watching him
more steady. But he
has.
You're talking about. I think they're telling him not to do that. Like when he went in the corner and he grabbed the 2 guys.
Yeah,
and that's Arber Xhekaj. But I think he sort of knew who he was, and then the Canadiens told him they don't really want him to be that. And now he's like, they didn't want him. I remember last season talking with Marty St. Louis and mentioned the sheriff, the nickname. Well, you guys call him that, we don't. Well, the guys in the locker room call him that. Like that's sort of like, but Marty obviously doesn't like that.
It's almost like Marty had to put him in his place. And man, that sucks because yesterday when that kid grabbed him, he should have punched the fuck out of him. Boom, done.
And he would have, like 2 years ago, he would have.
But he's in his head. The coach is in his head.
I mean, Arber's undrafted. The reason he got invited to the Habs first camp was mainly Michael Andlauer, who was part owner of the Habs at the time and also owned the junior team that Arber was playing with. And so you got to invite this kid at least to training camp. And he did. And what did he do? He hit everything that moved. He fought everybody who challenged him, and he won a spot on the team. That's who he was. And now I don't think I think he knows who he is naturally, but he's not allowed to be that person anymore, right? It would be like one of the coaches going to you, Knuckles, and saying, okay, Knuckles, we don't really want you to fight anymore, and we don't want you to do this, and we don't want you to do that. And, and then you're just going, okay, well, what am I supposed to do now?
Well, Lemaire, when he came in, I remember the game had happened. I fought Barry Beck. I had like fucking 5 fights in a week, and I fought Barry Beck, and he had a cast on. He nicked me here, cut me. I was bleeding. After the game, come in. Get back to the hotel. Jacques called me in. He said, Chris, I'm going to give you a rest tomorrow night in the Highlanders. And I'm there, what? I don't want a rest. He said, listen, you fight too much. I'm there, fight too much? Fuck you. Are you okay there, Coco? And he said, no, Chris, you get room out there. You don't have to fight as much as you fight. But they don't understand the mindset of a guy who does that. They don't. They just fucking don't.
Yeah.
And I almost didn't trust Jock. And believe me, I love the guy. He just, I love him.
Yeah.
And he wasn't going to play me the next night. They called up Dave Allison, and they were going to play him instead. But something happened on waivers or something that he couldn't play. And I went out after the game that night and got shit-faced. And I had to play the game in the Island the next day. And you know what I did? I went out and got in a fight because I just didn't. I always saw as a kid growing up, when a guy in Boston slowed down on this, boom, they were out of town. You know, it happened a few times. And I'm like, and you'd hear it all the time. Oh, the guy stopped fighting. He don't want to fight anymore. So I almost kicked it up a notch. And Jock just said, God, just play hockey too. I know you want to fight and blah, blah, blah. But the worst thing you can do, and I didn't let him get into my head that way. Because, listen, I know they needed that. Fuck, they ain't going to go into Boston and win a lot if you don't have that. You need it, especially back then.
Well,
but I worry about Arber Xhekaj that way. I just hope.
They've taken his mojo and they've taken some of his confidence away, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, Habs have killed a lot of prospects over the years previously, right? By guys. Remember when Victor Mete got traded away?
Yeah.
Different player than Xhekaj. But he said it was so hard to play when you knew every mistake you make, you're going to sit on the bench or you're going to go to the farm.
Yeah, but that doesn't go for everybody here on the Marty St. Louis, right? Come on.
Yep.
It goes for Arber.
I mean, Justin Barron, I mean,
a little bit.
I think the reason Justin Barron's still here is because they're afraid they're going to lose him on waivers if they send him down, just like with Primo, right? And if you're Logan Mayo and you're down in Laval, you're probably going, Christ, so how come I'm not up there type of thing, you know? And you wonder how that comes. But, you go back, I remember you telling me the story, Knuckles, when you first came up to the Canadiens, and Red Fisher, who I loved and the greatest hockey. If he hired me at the Gazette, I wouldn't be talking to you today if it wasn't for Red. But you came up, right? And Red wrote a column saying the Canadiens don't need a player like Chris Nilan. And then somebody else wrote a column and defended you, right?
Yeah, the Rocket. Yeah. Rocket said they do need a guy like Rocket Nilan.
Yeah.
And, I hadn't scored a goal yet, I don't think. And he wrote that article.
Yeah. That was a cool Rocket Nilan.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, at the time, I thought it was a big deal, what Rocket wrote. But I think looking back, it's even more so, because I didn't know. I was so naive and young and I just didn't have a clue as to. I thought because Red wrote it, they were going to get rid of me. That's what I thought.
Back in the day, Red had that.
Yeah.
I remember Rick Green telling me he was playing bad at one point, and Red came into the locker room and said to him, "You're playing like shit." I went, "Yeah, I know." So, well, you better start playing better, or I'm going to write about how bad you're playing. And Rick told me, he says, it was like a wake-up call. Like, oh, I better go out and play. That's the difference. The media had a lot more power. There was like 3 guys covering the team, right? And Red was Red, right? And Red had a lot of. GMs used to call Red and ask for advice about trades or players or stuff like that. So that's the credibility that he had back in the day.
And Rod Langway had his own reporter, Glenn Cole. Oh, it was so funny.
I remember Glenn. He used to drink creme de menthe.
Oh,
the way other guys would drink beer was disgusting.
Oh my God! And he, after every game, after every practice, he would come in the room and go right to Rod Langway. It was funny. It was funny.
That's funny. Well,
and he would come to me too, Glenn. But I didn't let him in like Rod did.
No, he was a character, Glenn. He looked like what's his name?
God rest his soul, right?
KRP with the suits and
funny
he
stuff.
was a character. But it's interesting you were talking about, Knuckles, the difference back then. With the aura of the Canadiens and Serge, like saying, when you left the rink, guys were pissed off if they lost. The Canadiens have been bad for a long time, right? Not only have they not won a cup since '93, they've been
terrible.
They've been a bad team. So a younger generation of Canadiens fans are used to the team being bad, right? So it's accepted. I mean, back when you guys played, if you tied, fans were pissed off, right? But it's changed. And we were talking with Brendan Gallagher the other day about this. Young players coming into the NHL now, they don't remember the glory days. Like some of them might see Yvon Cornway or some of the guys in the room and right? These kids, they just remember the Canes being bad. And Gallagher was asked about as the senior guy on the team, is he trying to teach these kids like what it means to play for the Canadiens, what the fan base, what the passion is? And he says, you try to, he says, but the only way you can really experience it is to live it, right? And I'm sure you went through that, Knuckles. Growing up in Boston, you knew about the Canadiens. You probably didn't understand just how passionate the fan base is here.
No, I didn't. And actually, I didn't understand throughout the country how passionate they are.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
The first time I went to Vancouver and the place is packed with Canadiens fans. I'm like, what is this?
Calgary, it's like Calgary is like a home game for the Habs.
Yeah,
Ottawa,
exactly.
I mean, fans are across the country, they're so passionate, these fans, but they've learned to sort of accept losing because it's been for so long. And I think that's going back to what we were saying before about fans getting upset. Now, I think people were hoping this was the year they were going to make the jump, right? Year 3 of the rebuild, we're going to push forward. But again, in hindsight, I think the Canadiens set the expectations too high at the golf tournament. And realistically, it's not a shock that they would go back in year 3 because they lost some key players. Yeah, they traded, and you understand why they traded them, right? Because they, Sean Monahan, they got Michael Hage. Yeah, part of that trade. So 3 years from now, Michael Hage is scoring 30 goals to the Canadiens. Oh, that's not to say he will, but if he is,
that's what you hope.
What a great trade! They got rid of Monahan. Whereas now, people are same with Kirby Dach or Alex Newhook. People are dumping on them, saying, Ken Hughes gave up too much. And right now, it might look that way, but you got to wait a couple more years. I've always said, I think you got to wait 5 years into a rebuild before you can even start to judge whether it's right.
Exactly right. They say 5 years. That's the time. It doesn't mean in 5 years you're guaranteed to be in the Stanley Cup final.
No,
you're not even guaranteed to be in the play. But it takes 5 years for those players you start developing and drafting to really come into their own. And I think that's where a lot of people don't understand the 5-year thing. It's
we still suck after 5 years.
Yeah, if you're not making the playoffs after year 5, something's wrong.
Doc is still playing like crap 5 years or another 2 years from now, or Alex Newhook isn't, or if David Reinbacher doesn't work out, and Mitchkov is lighting it up in Philadelphia, and those things, and if Jacob Fowler isn't the goalie that we think he might be, and he's more like Caden Primo won the Richter Award in U.S. College also, and no guarantee because Jacob Fowler is great in Boston College. He's going to be great here. And he talked about that at the development camp. He plays 39 games now, right? Playing the weekend. Start playing every second night, back to back.
Tired.
Different game. You went through that also, right, Knuckles? So but I think you got to wait. This is year 3. I think.
Well, that was a different animal still. Come on, you can't bring that shit.
There's only one Knuckles.
Play 80 games and fucking fight every night. Come on, travel.
I mean, there's a million. So I love the story about you outside the hotel in Boston. After you got drafted, the Habs guys there, and you give them a ride, right?
Yeah. That was hilarious.
That's a great spot.
Who the hell are you?
Yeah, 2 more years. I mean, year 3, after 2 more seasons, then I think you can start to say, if they're still like 28th, 29th in the standings, you got to say, okay, this rebuild isn't working. And at that point, Jeff Molson's going to say, is this working too? And is Jeff Gorton the right guy? And is Kent Hughes the right guy? But the thing is, when Gordon and Hughes took these jobs, especially Hughes has got a ton of money, right, from a player. Yeah. He didn't need this job. He didn't even want this job. When Jeff Gorton called him at first, he said no. And then his wife sort of talked him into it, saying, it'd be nice to go back to Montreal, our parents, and Ken Hughes told me the only 2 teams he would have even thought about accepting the GM role were the Canadiens and the Bruins, right, because he's lived in Boston for a long time. So he doesn't need this job. Marty St. Louis doesn't need this job. But they're so passionate about hockey, and they're passionate about making it work here. They have this plan. They're sticking to it. Yeah. And as Ken Hughes said, if it works, he'll be a hero in the city if they win a Stanley Cup. If it doesn't work, they'll fire him and move on to somebody else. But he's not making panic moves. He's not GMing to save his job like Marc Bergevin was, or a lot of GMs in the NFL, right? They make moves to save their jobs, right? He's not going to do that. He's got the confidence in the plan that he's doing. And as I said, I think you need to wait a couple more years before you can say, okay, this is working or this isn't working.
Well, I think they're a good team, Jeff and Hughes, for sure. Yeah. But Stu, I want to ask one more before we're going to take some questions, if that's okay. But I want to ask you one more thing before we do that. Marty St. Louis, looking at this, is he the guy for this rebuild up until this point? Things start looking like they're going the other way a little bit. Is he the guy? Is he on the hot seat at all?
I don't think so. I don't think he's on the hot seat this year.
And why is that?
If they keep competing like they did against the Rangers, not on the hot seat.
Yeah, I got you.
If the compete level, if they continue,
Well, that's one fucking game.
I know, that's what I mean. That's
Yeah.
one game. But they got to get back to like they were the last couple of seasons with the compete level. And you sort of wonder, are they not buying in? Are they not? If you have a system and it's not working, and you keep doing the same system and it doesn't work, the players tune out. It's what happened with Dominic Ducharme, right?
Yeah.
He was stubborn. He wouldn't change his system. The players tuned him out. He lost his job. So Marty's a little stubborn, I think, too. You're talking about that hybrid system before. He's convinced it's going to work. They've tinkered with it a little bit to try and eliminate some of the gray zones. But I don't think his job's on the line. And if it was on the line, when Jimmy Montgomery got fired in Boston, if they were thinking about making a coaching change, there you go. You got Coach Dach to speak French here, right? Montgomery speaks French. He has a connection with Hughes. They played CJEP hockey together in Montreal. They know each other. So if you were going to make a change, it's like when they fired Michel Therrien after Claude Julien got fired, right? It was like, okay, Julien's available. We got to get him. We got to get him now. Montgomery got hired by St. Louis, 3 days or whatever. But I don't think Marty's on the hot seat. And I also think when they hired Pascal Vincent, they have an NHL experienced coach in Laval. Look at what he's done there. I mean, it's remarkable. Yeah. The season, talking with Pascal, he's saying, it's going to be tough for us at the beginning of the season. We have so many young guys. Pro hockey's different. It's going to take an adjustment. We'll probably struggle at the beginning. Maybe around Christmas, hopefully we'll turn around. They've been good right from day one.
From the get-go, yeah.
Like if they were to make a coaching change this season, Pascal Vincent sitting there. But I think Marty's job's safe. I don't think unless we have a long string of games. I mean, Dominic Ducharme lost his job after they were playing horrible. They got smoked. I think it was 7-1 by the Devils. And Josh Anderson said after the game, that's embarrassing. It's no fun for the rink. If players start saying it's no fun coming to the rink anymore and they're starting to tune him out, then his job might be in jeopardy. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Cool. All right. What do we got for questions here in yellow? Let's see. Joe D'Ambria. My question is, why doesn't Dach be sent down to Laval to see if he can gain some confidence again? It's not helping the team if he's continuing to play as he has.
Yeah, I don't think I don't see that happening with a veteran guy. I wonder if they might sit him for a game,
if anything,
or just even if it's not as a punishment, just to watch the game from above, take a break, get your mind set, come back. But no, they're not going to. Kirby Dach's too big to this rebuild moving forward. They're not going to make the playoffs. You're going to keep playing him here, and hopefully he finds his game. And it's 22 games in or whatever it is. There's still a lot of hockey left to be played, and they've seen what a healthy, good Kirby Dach can do. And no, they're not going to send them back to Laval.
Yeah, that's you can't do that. And again, you say that you can't do it. I mean, you
can, but I don't think.
Yeah, it's something they wouldn't do. Doing that, you'd lose the kid altogether. I think. Yeah. You can do it to Arber though, and it's okay. Yeah, right? You can do it to Arber Xhekaj. Yeah. See you later, Arber. Well, but Kirby Dach, no, you can't do it. I get it.
Arber's like the kid in the back of the class who was always getting in trouble, right? It wasn't his fault.
I sat there. Not a bad place.
Yeah. But no, I don't see that happening.
I don't either.
Last season, like I said, with Slafkovsky, I thought early in the season they would have been better sending him back, a young kid like that. But Dach's been around, and
I would be for pulling him though.
I would even think about sitting him this afternoon. Yeah. And sit him down and say, we're not punishing you. Sort of we are. Like, that was a dumb penalty you took. And we got to have to send a message to the rest of the team. Like, you can't do stuff like that. But also, just it's back-to-back. Take a break. Maybe get Michael Pezzetta in a game.
But what a place to do it right here.
The guy hasn't played, and he's played 3 games all year. He hasn't played in,
but he might get in a fight.
Well, yeah. I feel for Mike Pezzetta. I mean, he's a guy I can see them saying, like, how do you let a guy sit that long and then throw him into playing an NHL game?
It's tough.
Yeah,
that's tough to watch.
Type of guy, but I mean, to me, that today would be a good chance to do that.
Be perfect.
I don't think it'll
perfect. Happen. All right. I hope that answers your question. Can we soon see a trade for a veteran player, Nick G? Nick, I don't know if they're ready to make that move yet. We just talked about, getting rid of Monahan and all these guys. And listen, there's going to be a point where they're going to have to bring in some men to be amongst these boys. And will that mean Matheson, Savard, these guys are going to move on somewhere else at some point and they'll bring in different veterans? I think they need some big, tough, hard players to be able to eat up those minutes and eat up time in the offensive zone, stuff like that, in zone time, hanging on to the puck, making life miserable for the other team. And honestly, they don't have that really, right?
They need another Sean Monahan type. And is it possible? Yes, because Kent Hughes is always listening, right? He's always listening. David Savard is definitely going to get traded at some point. The way he's playing, I don't know how much you're going to get for him. But, they have a lot of draft picks. They have a lot of prospects. I think they need another Sean Monahan type guy, a veteran guy to come in. And, like, with Matheson, I wouldn't trade Matheson. Like, you trade Matheson, who's going to play the 24 minutes a game that he's playing now? You have another 22-year-old kid playing? It's I wouldn't trade Mike Matheson, but in Savard, Armia, they'd love to move, right? He's in the last year of his contract. Jake Evans, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with him, if they move him or they don't move him. But Ken Hughes has a lot of prospects, a lot of draft picks, a lot of things he can do for a deal, and I'm sure he's listening. We've seen some trades this week, which usually you don't see many trades around the year. The Christmas break is coming up where they shut down. You can't trade people. But I think Ken Hughes knows that this team needs like another Sean Monahan type guy.
Yeah, I don't think they're ready to pull the trigger on that just yet, to be honest. And again, not that I just look at if this team at some point is going somewhere, they can't have both Mike Matheson and Hudson in the lineup at the same time. I just don't think that'll be a winning formula down the road.
I'll disagree with you on that one, Knuckles, just because I don't know if Lane Hudson can play all the time against the other team's top line just at his size. I mean, he's effective defensively. Yeah. He's good with his stick. He's aggressive. But let's see how this season moves on, right? This is a guy who's never played more than 39 games in a season. We're at game 23 now. Is he still going to be able to play the way he's playing now in February, March? We'll see. We'll see. But we'll see with with Matheson.
And I'm not saying right now, but I think down the road.
Matheson, I think, can play whatever role you ask him to play.
Yeah.
Marty's asking him now. They have no offense. You gotta help create some offense from the back end.
Yeah.
If let's say if he's
playing he does.
But if he was playing with Hudson and they said, we want you to play with Hudson, we want you to sort of stay back, he'll do that. Like he's a veteran guy. He'll do whatever's asked. But I think a lot of Canadiens fans are against, like they dump on Matheson all the time, and I don't really get it because I think the mistakes he makes, or some of the mistakes he makes, is because he's got the puck on his stick a lot, and I think they want him to move the puck and rush the puck up and do. They've given him a lot more leash than what he has.
Yeah, there's times he takes those high risk chances, though. You know what I mean? And that's what I think people see. Yeah. I get it. You don't take chances. You're never gonna. But sometimes in a game, you got to be selective.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When to and when not to. Listen,
Lane Hudson is learning that now, too. Lane Hudson Marty talked about that yesterday. Lane Hudson got caught the previous game, one of the goals. He was sort of pinching in at the blue line, trying to get the puck. It took a bounce over 2-on-1 there. He's got to learn that also, right? When to go, when not to go. But as Mike Matheson told me last season, he says, if they want, I could just fire the puck off the glass and get it out. We're not. No,
I get that. But I also get back in the day, right?
Yeah.
Stu, it was like, you would not take that risk.
Yes.
You always had to stay on the defensive side and make sure you stay on the strong side. Mm-hmm. If you take that, like you could pinch on a wrap if the puck come around, the D-man got time to read it. You never short side pinch. Yeah. Like if you ever did that, it was like, again, if you have a third guy high, you can do it. But a lot of times, and I saw it this year where they had the strong side pinch and the third forward was like at the top of the circle. He wasn't at the blue line or just inside it. Yeah. And boom, it's an odd man rush the other way. That was one of the things the coaching staff was so against when we played. Giving up odd man rushes was like, you know what? That was like saying something bad about someone's mother. That's how bad it was.
When Marty was talking about the mistake Hudson made when he pinched in, he was also on his offside. So he was trying to get the rim on his back end, right?
On his back end.
Forget it. Over. So he'll learn, And Marty, as Marty said, he's a you don't need to tell Lane Hudson something twice, right? He's a coach's view coach, right, Knuckles? It's a coach's dream, right? When you tell a kid something once and you don't need to tell him again. And Hudson's that type of kid, and he's smart, and he learned fast. So we probably won't see him do that again on his offside, coming in trying to stop the puck along the boards with his backhand.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right. I think we got a couple more questions here. Sonny Pete. Oh, surprise, surprise. The Habs cave. How do you think being in this losing culture for this long affects these youngsters? Or does it at all?
That's
key word there is youngsters.
Look at Buffalo, right?
You need some men on this team, Sonny Pete.
Yeah, look at Buffalo. Look at Ottawa. That losing culture sets in, right? Buffalo, 14 years. It could be 14 years in a row they missed the playoffs. It sets in. And yes, I think it does. And I think that's when you need Sean Monahan type guys to keep that culture, keep that winning culture. It's got to be easy to get down, when you keep losing and losing, especially if you're not believing in the code like Dominic Ducharme. Remember the end of the Dominic Ducharme era?
Yeah, it's terrible.
Unwatchable. The guys, you could tell there was no effort. They accepted losing. Right? Remember when it was a Cassian ran over Montembeault? Nobody did anything. Right? Nobody did a thing. They had given up. So, that is a concern. There's no doubt that is a concern, having a losing culture set into the locker room.
It's funny. I saw something on the internet. Dave Maloney, former Ranger analyst, and the Rangers were playing the Flyers in Philly. And Panarin got Konechny come up and hit him, and then they kind of turned and spun up, and every Flyer went and surrounded Panarin. Everyone came to him. Why? All the Rangers were going to the bench. And he said, this really burns my ass, he said, to see this. And the Flyers, they have that connection to how they'll never lose that. The Bruins will never lose it. They won't allow them. The fan base won't allow them.
And the team won't keep players who don't buy in, right?
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, I wrote a column the other day about how Brendan Gallagher is still the heart and soul of the Canadiens. And some of the comments were he should have been a Bruin.
Yeah. He would have been a real Bruin, starting all the shit and let everybody else fight for him. But I love the kid. And again,
hey, he fought the.
No, I know he did.
He's not a fighter, but he gave up like 6 inches. And
I love Brendan. Are you kidding me?
Who's the biggest guy that you fought against as far as a height and weight difference?
Semenko a couple times. Yeah. Dave Brown,
he was
big man. I fought him like 6 times. I don't know.
Yeah.
O'Reilly, height and weight. No, just the circumference of his head. He has a big head. And when you punch that head, your hand hurts. Okay? That's all I'll tell you.
How about Jay Miller, who had that Cooper helmet bolted on his head?
But I always used to get him in the kisser. I had a couple nicks from the helmet, but
like Gallagher fight, I mean, there's a reason there's weight classes in boxing and UFC, right?
Yeah. There's no weight classes here.
No, when you see a little guy taking on some of these guys. But you had the stun gun there, right? I remember watching you one time, Knuckles, signing an autograph, and I said, Knuckles, I didn't know you were a lefty. You said a lot of guys didn't know that.
Yeah. So, God, my hands still hurt, believe it or not. Arthritis. All right, I think we got 1 or 2 more in yellow. We good?
Punching those helmets.
Will they re-sign Dvorak from SN Gnostic? No. I don't think they will either.
I think the reason
that's happening
as much as they are is they're hoping he can do enough that another team will want him at the trade deadline and be willing to give something up. And they might. I mean, veteran center who can win faceoffs and kill penalties. They might get something at the trade. No, they're not. They're not even gonna talk to him about re-signing him.
That's a guy that could go to a team like Florida and be effective.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Remember the hype about him? The hype about him came from Arizona. Remember the hype about they got to get this guy. Remember Tony was you got to get this guy.
Yeah.
But playing in Arizona and playing in Montreal, not the same thing, right?
Not at all.
Like Arizona, you go out, you play golf after practice. You go to a bar, nobody knows who you are, nobody cares who you are. I remember I was in Arizona a couple of years ago when the Coyotes were playing out of that little college rink. And I went for lunch before the game at a little sports bar down the street, and I was talking with the barmaid, and she was saying, where are you from? I said, from Montreal. What are you here? I'm here to cover the hockey game. Oh, yeah, which game? Oh, they're playing against the Coyotes tomorrow night. Oh, yeah, that's right. We got that hockey team here. The rink is like a block down the street. And this is a sports bar. So you're playing Arizona and play here, the scrutiny and the focus and everything. That's Jonathan Drouin. Look at Jonathan Drouin, what he's doing in Colorado now.
Yeah.
Well, you can go out and nobody knows who he is. It's not everybody can handle the pressure of playing in Montreal and the spotlight and everything else.
And I'll never forget when he was asked that question, how are you going to deal with the pressure being a local kid? No, I won't have a problem with that.
I asked his agent, Alan Walsh, after he came here, what's the advice you'd give to Jonathan about playing in Montreal? And I told him, just have fun with it. He didn't. It wasn't fun, right? It wasn't. Yeah, fun. It wasn't. It ate him up. It ate him up, and that's not. Guys are made differently. Some people are mentally stronger. Some people don't care. Like I say about Shea Weber. Shea Weber couldn't care less what anybody said or thought about him. Right? He was his own man. Not everybody's like that, and that's why you look at Kirby Dach shutting off his mentions today. Like it's nobody in the Arizona Coyotes back when they were in Arizona was shutting off their mentions after the game. They were probably shocked if they got one, if a fan actually commented on something they did in the game.
Yeah, honestly, I want to see Kirby Dach bounce back, that kid. I feel bad, like watching him struggle and having that tough time. And I think, he said it. He said, I really think I'm playing too cautious. And it was his quote. And he's got to let that go. And listen, just bring go balls out. And if it happens, you get hurt again, you get hurt again. That's unfortunate. But if you're going to play that cautious game, you're not going to be close to the player you were in junior or for the little bit in the NHL. You're not going to come close to that, and you'll never be able to recapture that. And at least if you're gonna go down or you're gonna have a difficult swing, baby, swing.
That's what's so admirable about Gallagher, right? I mean, played with 2 busted ankles a couple of years ago. He's got busted up hands. He's had broken jaws. I mean, nobody's more banged up than Brendan Gallagher. Yeah, but he brings it every shift, practice, games, whatever. I mean, Brendan's probably gonna have a hard time walking a golf course when he's my age, but that's the only way he knows how to play the game.
My first injury, knee injury, when I was with the Habs, like I remember when I first came back, I was scared.
Yeah, and I
was playing cautious.
That's you,
I was playing cautious.
You were never afraid of anything, right?
First couple games I was, and then I certainly found out pretty quickly that I can't do that. I just got to go. I got to be me. I can't be worried about my knee. If it happens again, it happens again.
You wonder.
And I was cautious for a little bit.
I wonder if Kirby's feeling something in the knee still. You know what I mean? Like
who knows?
Something there that he's
and he don't want to say nothing, right?
Yeah, he's not 100% confident that the knee is 100% yet. And as I said, when Laine comes back, it's going to be a similar thing. He didn't even have surgery, right? He's hoping he'll heal by itself. And when you look at that hit that he took, the way his knee bended, I mean, it's amazing that he didn't have require surgery. But back on the ice now, and I imagine we'll see him back. I don't think we'll see him this afternoon. We'll find out in a few hours, but I imagine maybe next week.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens there. I don't know if we have any more. We got one more in yellow. All right. Yeah. John L. Hewitt. Josh Anderson is the Habs' first star of last game as far as I'm concerned. Still wish he did something when Laine went down, but way to go payback for that hit on Baron.
Yeah, that was probably in the back of his mind, the Laine thing, because I know he was on the ice when that happened.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think that was a dirty hit. I think Laine got caught in the railway tracks there a bit, and the guy, it was a minor league guy. It wasn't even an NHL player. Just couldn't get out of the way. But Anderson this year has been really much more involved. Like, he's playing well, and I think the fact Marty put him on the penalty kill has a lot to do with that.
For a big man to be involved in the game, be sweating, not sitting.
One of the reasons
he's been awesome.
One of the reasons the PK is so good is adding him to it.
Yeah.
He's really effective.
He got the long stick, the range. Yep.
There's a threat of him going the other way, shorthanded on a breakaway. And I think just mentally, Marty's been in his corner all the way. I remember last season when Anderson was struggling, Marty says, I don't give up on my players unless they give up on themselves. And Anderson never gave up on himself. And at training camp this year, he said, we were asking him, if you could go back last season, what would you change? And he said, I would have just kept reminding myself how well I was playing early in the season, even though the points weren't coming. Remember, he was playing really well the first 20 games. Then it got in his head, right? We're talking about Kirby Dach. It got in his head. The points weren't coming. He got all messed up.
Yeah, you got to be stronger mentally than that. I don't give a shit.
He admitted that. And this year, I think by Marty having confidence in him last year and showing added confidence this year, you're going to play the PK. And he played the PK in Columbus, and he said he really liked it. And he's good at it. Like he wins. A lot of the PK is winning puck battles, right? And then getting it down the ice. He's a big body, and the Habs been really good on the PK. And I think from a mental standpoint, it really helped Anderson. And just getting more ice time, right? He used to sit there on PKs and watch. Now he's getting more ice time, and I think he's more involved. And he's been that was a good game. He played a really good game yesterday against the Rangers.
Yeah, here's what I'll say. I love what he did. When I look at Josh Anderson, and early in the season here, there's been some stuff happen on the ice where he was on the ice, and I said this, I was talking to Tony about it, and Tony also mentioned, when's the last time you saw Josh Anderson be the first one in there in a scrum? And it was true. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a scrum. He should have his friggin' – these are young kids, right? They're younger kids. He's a veteran. You got to give – as a teammate, you got to give your players that confidence, your teammates, that – if the shit hits the fan, I'm going to be the first one there, especially when I'm on the ice. If I'm on the bench, well, okay, I gotta finagle the bagel here. But if I'm on the ice, I got to be the first one in there. And, that goes a long way with your teammates. And then all of a sudden we saw him. He got in a fight. Who did he fight a couple of weeks ago? He fought.
Yeah, I can't remember. But yeah.
Was it Olivier? No,
Olivier fought.
No, not Arber. Anyway, that he had a fight, and then it seemed like, oh shit, is he going to start doing this? So, that was good. I love what he did last night, squared. I mean, and he certainly got the better of Trouba, and Trouba was pretty friggin' quiet.
Yeah, he was.
Night, wasn't he?
You'd see in the penalty box, they sort of talk like Trouba. Yeah. I get it. Like I think they were like, I get what you did. Yeah. Trouba respected what he did.
I don't like that.
The thing with Anderson, you never did.
Fuck the other guy. It's like, hey, gotta go. Yeah.
The thing with Anderson, though, is that he's a big boy and he can fight. He can fight. I'll tell you a quick funny story about it in the penalty box. Remember Al Bishop? He used to work for CTV. Yeah. Big guy. I used to play old timers hockey with him. He was drafted by Buffalo. His first roommate with the Sabres when they had training camp in Lake Placid was Yvon Lambert. So you can imagine the stories he has about that. But Al fought, I think it was Marty McSorley and Jr. And Al was like 17, maybe, a big guy. And playing for Niagara Falls. Bert Templeton was his coach.
Oh, Bert was my coach. Yeah. My first coach pro hockey.
Yeah, so they're at center ice and they're squared off, and Al's playing at home, and his right hand comes free. And he goes, what the hell? So he throws a punch and he nails him. And the lines go, let him go. And they go. And he said it was one of those rock'em sock'em fights, back. I'm pretty sure it was McSorley. And so Al gets to the penalty box and he says, I got an ice pack in my face. I got one in my hands. My heart feels like it's going to pound out of my chest. The crowd's going friggin' crazy. He says, I feel like I'm going to throw up. I look over at McSorley and good fight, kid. Yeah. And right then I realized, okay, I'm tough, but I'm not that tough.
Yeah.
It's like nothing to him.
Yeah, you got to condition yourself for that stuff.
Well, even with Arber, I remember talking with Arber and saying, how did you learn how to fight? And you'll probably appreciate this too. I says, well, you don't really learn how to fight. He says, I got in a fight in junior and the guy punched me in the face and didn't really bother me, and I did it again. It's like Mike Tyson's line, right? Everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. Yeah. He says, I realized I was good at it, and I didn't mind taking a punch in the face. And there's not a lot of guys like that out there.
Yeah, I could fight in the street. I never fought in the ice until pro hockey, my first fight. My first fight, I signed a contract the following week.
I mean, a lot of guys don't remember Peter Worrell.
Yeah.
Big guy, played for the West Island kid. I remember asking him, did you get in a lot of fights as a kid? And he said, no, the first fight I ever got in my life was a junior training camp in Hull. Yeah. Nobody was going to take him on. He was like 6'6" and whatever. It's like when you watch Slafkosvky. when he fights. He's not a fighter, right? But who would have fought him when he was a kid? He was just too big. And Worrell told me that was the first. And then he realized he was good at it, and he realized the only way he was going to keep a job in the junior league was to keep fighting. And Claude Julien was a coach at the time, and he worked with Worrell and worked with his skating and improved him, and eventually played in the NHL. But another guy who had never been in a fight until then. But Arber and his brother used to scrap all the time. So as kids, his dad was telling me they used to play street hockey, and it would always end up in a fight, the two of them. And so it's gonna be interesting to see how Florian does when he comes out. I have the two Xhekaj brothers on the Habs be like the Hanson brothers. That'd be
yeah. And that Tuck's brother, right down there. Those are guys that down the road, if they progress, one day could be up here and be really good third, fourth liners for this team, and that's a good thing. So
again, going back to what I said, 5 years down the road, Arber Xhekaj, Florian Xhekaj could be your fourth line winger or your third line winger a couple of years. So
and if
after 5 years, we can decide if the rebuild worked or not.
Yeah, if they don't screw Arber up too much between now and then, let's hope not. Anyway, Stu, I think that's it, Yellow. Do we got one more? We're done? I think we're done with the questions. Stu, thanks so much for joining me here on Real Talk with Knuckles. I'm sure we'll do this again at some point during the season, and I appreciate you coming on.
Always a pleasure, Knuckles, and my condolences again on your mom.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it, Stu. All right.
Good stuff, Knuckles. That was fun.
Yeah, thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. Yeah.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Raw Knuckles with Chris Nilan on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.